Good day, sir.
Yeah.
May we meet you, sir?
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Tunde Akande.
Yes, sir. Sir, in one of your works, you refer to yourself as a partial feminist. What do you really mean by this, sir?
Yeah. It simply means that I am a feminist to an extent, and I'm not a feminist to another extent.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way, who is a feminist, sir?
Okay. For the sake of this discussion, let me just define it simply as a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. A person who believes that women are denigrated or oppressed in society, and therefore that such denigration must stop. It is the view which was articulated in the 19th century that women are inherently equal to men and that they deserve equal rights and opportunities.
So, sir, why are you a partial feminist?
Okay, it is because I accept that there are actually some ways in which women are denigrated or are being oppressed in society. But I disagree with feminists, especially the radical variant of radical feminism, especially with the radical variant of it, that the way to stop this oppression is by totally tearing down all barriers between the sexes.
Please, sir, can you throw more light on that, sir?
Yes, I can. What I mean is that I cannot understand how and why radical feminists leap from the fact that women need to be liberated from certain forms of oppression to the fact that such liberation lies in women becoming like men. What is the connection between the need for women to be liberated from this and the efforts to make them become like men? What is the wisdom behind the thinking that all forms of sex role should be abolished because women need some form of liberation?
Wow. I believe more elaboration is needed here, sir.
Okay, what I'm actually trying to say is this. I believe in the principle of bipolarity in nature. If you look at nature, you will observe that things occur in twos. It is not for nothing that nature made it man and woman. In fact, man and woman, the man and woman phenomenon is just one case of the occurrence of duality, or what I may call the principle of bipolarity in nature. The principle of bipolarity in nature is the phenomenon of the occurrence of the positive and the negative poles in creation. In nature, things occur in twos. For example, according to Stephen Lampe, the division into male and female is an expression of this general and fundamental principle in nature. What I'm trying to say is this: throughout creation, there is a division into positive and negative, or active and passive. Thus, we have positive and negative charges, positive and negative poles, and there are positive and negative particles in matter. Indeed, in the law of numbers, 2 is said to be the number of creation. And as a consequence, the twofold division, that is bipolarity, or the phenomenon of opposites, are fundamental features of creation. So the idea of duality is encountered in mathematics, for example. It is encountered in the two sides of every equation. We also have the binary system, which is heavily deployed in the field of computer technology. And in accounting, we have the double entry system of credit and debit. Other examples are to be found in such phenomena as day and night, light and darkness, giving and taking, exhalation and inhalation, cause and effect, up and down direction, major and minor scales in music, etc. So this is one of the reasons why I think that, yes, why we need to stop denigrating women. Doing that is not the same thing as turning women into men.
Wow.
So, sorry, before you ask the next question, what I mean again by that explanation is that man and woman represent different polarities in nature, and so we should respect the integrity of the sexes. Thank you.
You said one of the reasons,
Yeah.
meaning you have other reasons. Please, can you give us another one?
Exactly. Yeah. The other reason why I'm a partial feminist is because feminists misconstrue the concept of equality and difference. Equality does not mean that everyone and everybody should play the same role in society. Radical feminist philosophers confuse difference with inequality. The fact that people are different is not the same thing as that they are not equal. Class stratification and division of labor are natural. The class which a person belongs to does not automatically make him or her inferior. What makes him or her inferior is the way he or she the way he or she conducts his or her affair, as well as the way he or she is treated by the society. If society accords too much importance to one to the detriment of the other, what will be done, or what should be done in such a situation, is to struggle to balance the treatment meted to each group, and not to try to leave one group for the other. Doing so will amount to refusing to accept the challenges associated with one's group, for each group has its own challenges, strengths, and weaknesses. And as mentioned before, radical feminist philosophers, misconstrue the concept of equality. There can be no equality between or among people such that everybody will be playing the same role. There can be no equality among people, such that they will be the same in all respects. There will always be differences, For example, in the home, you have the father, you have the mother, you have the children, and each one plays a role. In the school, you have the teacher, you have the student. The fact that you are a student does not make you less a human being than the teacher, So, these differences do not mean inferiority or superiority. Equality can only be achieved by trying to uphold such values as fair treatment, equity, and justice. And justice does not demand equal treatment for all. It is simply about giving the one what is his due, and the other, and doing the same for the other. We only need to become more enlightened to change our attitudes towards difference, because as I mentioned earlier, it takes a student, for example, for it to make sense to say that one is a lecturer. If you remove the student, all talk about being a lecturer becomes meaningless. So it is only some sort of lack of enlightenment that can lead a member of any group to think that he is more important than the other, just on account of belonging to that group. There can be differences in abilities, but this is entirely another matter. Differences in ability are not differences in value and worth. Even though one's class may place some limitation on one, that still is not weakness or lack. So what I'm trying to say is that the fact that you belong to a different group does not automatically translate to inferiority or superiority. In nature, there is natural division of labor. It takes, for example, I am in this office. I need a cleaner, as lowly as that office may look, for me to be able to use this office in a way that will promote even my health and general healthiness. So, as lowly as the office of the cleaner or the role of the cleaner may look, imagine if that role is taken away. I won't be able to stay here comfortably. So, the fact that he's a cleaner does not make him or her inferior to me. The fact that I am here does also not make me superior to him or her. What we should do is to recognize that each role is important. And so, difference does not mean inequality. So what I'm trying to say is that I should not say because this person is playing a different role from mine, therefore the person is inferior to me. So radical feminists do not understand this concept. They misconstrue the concept of difference, with that of inequality.
So finally, sir, what is your conclusion, sir?
It is on this note that I think that instead of trying to remove the difference between the sexes, the effort should rather be to seek to make each gender blossom to its best and to encourage those characteristics that are deeply associated with each, while at the same time seeking to give adequate recognition and remuneration to each class. For example, let me buttress what I mean here. We live in society. The woman, for example, carries pregnancy, and she does that, gives birth to a child, nurtures him or her, and then the child grows and becomes useful to society. Tomorrow, the child begins to go to an office, begins to work in an office, and then government recognizes the role that child is playing and they remunerate him. But they forget the roots, how he came. That somebody carried his pregnancy, somebody nurtured him for some time and brought him up to this level where he is. So, what recognition does society give to that role, to the role of the woman who prepared the child to get to that level of usefulness to society? Are you there? Now, I am here in the office working for government, for example. Somebody is in my house, taking care of my house, nurturing me to ensure that I am able to do this job. Without that person playing that role, I won't be fit for this job. So, society needs to remunerate or recognize and remunerate that role. So what I'm saying is that when a woman takes care of her so-called husband, when a woman takes care of her so-called child, when a woman takes care of her so-called home, she's working for society. Because it is that child that grows into the adult and becomes useful to society and renders very useful services to society. But the person that nurtures him, the person that prepares him, that grooms him, is not regarded. So what I'm trying to say is that in nature, we should respect the principle of bipolarity. We should respect sex roles. We should respect natural division of labor. There are certain roles that are best suited for men. There are certain roles that are best suited for women. But instead of society to recognize each sex in the performance of these roles, society seems to have given more or adequate recognition to only the role played by one sex. And that is why women are being tempted to delve into those areas that are predominantly or traditionally regarded as the roles for men. So what I'm trying to say is that there are roles that women play in society which should be recognized and remunerated so that women can be encouraged to be women. We should encourage women to be women. We should encourage men to be men. Each sex should remain on his or her own lane, play the role that is assigned to them by nature. But society should recognize and remunerate each of these roles that is allotted by nature. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. And if you do that, you will now see that we won't be talking about inequality, because where the inequality is actually coming from is in the area of recognition and remuneration. For example, what I mean again is that if a woman is a housewife, is a full-time housewife, for example, she's working for society, and society should recognize and remunerate her for being a housewife. Are you getting the point I'm trying to make?
Sir.
So as long as society encourages those roles that are played by women, those roles that are played by men, then you will see that we encourage each sex to blossom. We encourage each gender to develop those good characteristics that are deeply associated with them. So this is why I'm a partial feminist. I believe that yes, there are ways in which women are being denigrated, but what we should do is to try to remove those aspects of oppression that women experience in society. But it does not translate to women becoming like men. It does not translate to women playing the same roles as men. Women should be women. Women should play their roles as women. Women should be encouraged to take care of the home front, because you see, the neglect of the home front is telling on society. The home front is a fundamental aspect of society. If you don't take care of children well from the home, they grow up and become criminals in the larger society. Some people will argue that is it only women that can take care of children on the home front? Yes, I am saying that by nature, women are better suited as homemakers. Forget about what is now happening. It's not about whether we can do it, it's whether we should do it. Most men now are now trying to take care of the home front, but by what is stipulated by nature, by natural endowments, I am saying that women are better fitted for it. Women play such roles more, and both in terms of their psychological and spiritual endowments, they are better placed to play that role than men. And so society should recognize and remunerate them for playing that role. Then women will be free to make choices. Those women who want to go out, those women who want to be in the home front, we have a choice. But today, nobody recognizes that women who stay at home and work for their so-called husbands, for their so-called children, are working for society. But if we grow to the point of recognizing them and remunerating them, a lot of women will have the option of choosing to stay in the home front and focus on homemaking, nurturing, and all those things, which will be a boost for society in every respect. So this is what I think.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.